Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always by my co-host Nick Falato. We lead you in with the amazing graphic that Nick put together of today's game. Is that the official? Probably the official from the game today. A lot of bad officiating today, Nick. Even on the Sunday night football game, I thought there was some really bad officiating. Officials are having a tough time this year. It's the midseason mark, but man, oh man, it was a rough one for the Giants. And we are leading off with this discussion, I think, about this game, though I will caveat it by saying, Nick, neither of us believe the Giants lost this game because of the officials. Is that correct?
Of course. Giants were manhandled in this game by the Philadelphia Eagles just 2 weeks after the Giants manhandled the Philadelphia Eagles. And you could just tell that they were up for the task, the Philadelphia Eagles. In the trenches, both sides. Giants couldn't stop the run whatsoever. Defensively, it was a massive problem. But that is completely separate and independent from how bad the officiating was in this game. And I also think it's going to be, as you tweeted, I think that play with Kayvon Thibodeau and the tush push, that's going to be the impetus to this rule getting changed somehow. I don't know if it's going to be flat out banned or if the NFL is just going to come down and really force officials to over and hyper officiate that specific play, because that's just an absolute joke. Logic is completely out the window when it comes to this, because there's no way for the NFL to actually define some of the nuances of what's going on the football field. And the officials just do not know how to officiate this play. A lot of officiating in the NFL is subjective, right? Like pass interference is a pretty subjective call. But with this specifically, there have been just a ton of mistakes, and it's been a black eye on the NFL that one of 32 teams is significantly benefiting from. So it's going to change this offseason. And I think this play specifically will be the primary reason for that.
And that was your call, and I think it was a great call, because this will be what they point back to, because no matter how you slice that play, it's either they blew the whistle and he was short because he didn't extend it before they blew the whistle, or they didn't blow the whistle, which, by the way, they didn't, because you can hear on the replay the whistle was never blown. And Kayvon Thibodeau ripped the ball out. And that's a live football. This is not the goal line. It's an Eagles don't play by a special set of rules where if you run a tush push, it's over, we did it, we got it. No. Once you cross the line, it's still a play. The play is still happening, and they did not blow that whistle, and there would be no reason to call forward progress because Jalen Hurts was just moving forward normally. There was no stoppage of his legs or anything. So what happened was they took a fumble away from the Giants, a turnover, which led to 7 points for the Eagles. And I'll say this, Nick, and you called it, and I think you're correct, at least from our end, the worst officiated game that we've ever covered professionally, or that you've ever covered professionally. I would agree. I would say there's been games that have rivaled it, but this was probably the most uneven officiated game. And I've gone over a lot of games with the Giants where fans felt like we got screwed by the calls, and I totally understand that. And there have been one or two here or there, or like just moments in games, but this one was very uneven across the board. And, I will start by saying, Nick, I do not blame the refs for the Giants losing this game whatsoever. But I also don't like how some people look at it like, well, the final score was blah, 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 to blah, blah, blah. So even if you do all these penalties and you called them all right, the Giants still would have lost, because that doesn't really take into account the momentum and like the flow of the game. When these calls were made, it changed the flow of the game. That fumble was a massive moment. That put 7 points on the board. It was a tie game, 7-7. That put 7 on the board for the Eagles. It would have been a big momentum shift for the Giants with a chance to take a lead. The 3rd and 12 DPI call on the Giants, that took the Eagles from out of field goal range where they likely would have been punting. They wouldn't be able to go for it on 4th and 12 to auto first, led to a field goal. The OPI on Darius Slayton, another bad call, that takes 7 points off the board for the Giants. The Wan'Dale Robinson block in the back takes the Giants out of second, and I believe 1.5 or 2 into 2nd and 12. And obviously the horrific butterfly effect of the Cam Skattebo injury on the next play after that. What else was there? I had them all.
Yeah, there was also the Mailata false start that they called on Kayvon and Dex, and I was like, how did you you don't really see that too frequently where the NFL,
and that's 2nd and 12 versus 2nd and 2, which led to the touchdown at the play or two later. So that's another one that could have been a 4-point swing if the Eagles just have to settle for 3 in that regard. So I do think it had a major impact on the game. I don't think it's the reason the Giants lost. So let's
exactly, because the Giants played like shit. Like the Giants defensively could not stop the run whatsoever. I don't know why the Eagles didn't lean on the run in the first matchup. They ripped off like 35 yards on 2 carries of Saquon Barkley and then just strayed away from it and started throwing the football a bunch. So But in this game, they came out, they were just running the football. And the Giants, I mean, Saquon, credit to him, he punished the Giants for just not being gap sound and not being disciplined in their run fits from a variety of different ways, mind you. A lot of the one long 65-yard touchdown run, that was 6 offensive linemen, a big tackle with a tight end. It was designed to run to the strong side, and the Giants played it well to the strong side, but the Giants also overflew to the strong side, leaving that backside cutback lane that Darius Muasau could not fill. And then Tyler Nubin, his athletic deficiencies were put on display for what seems like the 12th time this season, where he is chasing somebody and not being able to locate them. I would say that wasn't fully on Nubin. Like, there are a lot of things that have to go wrong to put Nubin in that situation, but that's the reality of the New York Giants right now, is those things will go wrong, and Tyler Nubin is not a good enough football player to overcome that and then make the play when his number is called. He has to be perfect with everything, and he seems to just not be a confident player right now with his angles, with his ability to actually attack the running back, right? He always just stops his feet, and then they just accelerate to the outside, and he's just not quick enough to close with and restrict the space between the running back to the sideline to force him out of bounds or make a tackle. This has happened how many times realistically, Dan? Probably like 5 times this season. That's a lot, man. It's been a bad second year for Tyler Nubin.
Yeah, that's a lot for just, 8 games into a season too. That's the other thing. It would be a lot just over a full season. And on that front, it's been really disappointing. We both had Tyler Nubin as a breakout. And I think when we made that call, we leaned a lot on our evaluation of him on college, because in college at Minnesota, because he wasn't really much of a ball hawk last year, and he didn't seem to be great fit in this defense. He was better in run defense. He had 103 tackles. He was okay in that regard. I don't think he was anything too special there. We just felt like kind of knew where he was going to be. And in year 2 in this system, he would be playing even faster and benefiting from the front 4 additions and the improvements we made up front and front 4. But I'll say this, Nick, I have never, since I started covering this Giants team seriously, and that's basically with you. And now I did it seriously with 24/7 Sports from 2016 to 2019 before this podcast, but nothing like what I've done with you, because we're actually watching tape. I've never seen a player's speed translate worse from college to the NFL than Tyler Nubin. And I think some of it is, look, it's Big Ten tape, and it's old Big Ten tape. It's before, these UCLA teams, like Oregon and USC is in. It's a lot of slow Big Ten teams, not a lot of passing. And you knew it when you watched Antoine Winfield Jr. at Minnesota. You knew he was special. I felt like I didn't feel that way with Nubin, but I did feel like he was going to be a pretty good player at the NFL level. But I've never seen speed translate less for any player since I've covered the Giants. And Tyler Nubin from college to the NFL, he looks genuinely slow for the position. Maybe it's quick. Maybe it's not quick enough is probably the better term.
Well, it's that, and it's also I just angles is one way to phrase it, but it is how he goes downhill and how he attacks the running back once he does go downhill, right? Because he decides to stop a lot of the time and give that running back the two-way go and then force that running back to make the commitment or bounce him outside. It really is just the athletic deficiencies once he does that. Like, he has to change up his style against certain running backs on how he's going to attack when he is coming downhill, because he doesn't have the athletic ability to actually close with it and push a guy like Saquon Barkley even out of bounds. Saquon just effortlessly, seemingly just hits it, goes outside the numbers, and he's gone. And dude, right when that play happened, I looked at, I saw 27 go in the hole. I'm like, 27 is going to be the guy to fill. Let's see if he can do it. And then right away, I was like, there's no way he's going to. Once I saw him stop his feet, I was like, oh, nope. Saquon's gone. That's going to be a 65-yard touchdown.
But that wasn't really even an angle that Saquon should have 65-yard. That's kind of the problem there. And I disagree personally with what I'm seeing in the comments. Some people are saying, no offense or anything. It's just a honest disagreement. And you may be right. I may be right. It's not about being right. Danny Dudd says it's not speed. He takes bad angles. You cannot teach that. I'm not saying he's taking good angles. I do think he doesn't have the speed I thought he would have at the NFL level. I do not find him to be a fast safety at all. And the way we've managed to botch this safety position is really something that's troubling for me as I look at this Giants team and this roster moving forward with a really promising quarterback we'll talk about in a little bit. And you just can't afford to have these types of botch situations. We had Xavier McKinney on the roster and Julian Love, and now we have Javon Holland and Tyler Nubin. We've burned a top 40 pick to improve that, which we didn't have to do. We could have used that Nubin pick on an offensive lineman or a linebacker or a wide receiver or a safety, or a corner positions we need. Instead, we used it on Nubin, and then we doled out a shit ton of money to Holland, which we would have had to McKinney. So that's a wash from a financial standpoint. But and yeah, we would have to pay more for Love than we have to pay for Nubin. But we got that second round pick back, and we could really use a receiver right now. We could really use a corner right now. Long term, we can use a guard, and I think right now we can use a linebacker, because the other thing is on that play, man, we've been praising him. He's been in the right spots, but Darius Muasau looked like he was in quicksand on that play. And really all day he struggled, I thought. He's just doesn't have the speed to play at this level.
Yeah, no, that's with Nubin and Darius Muasau, they're very similar case studies, because Joe Shane and even us on this podcast, we thought if they were to be successful in the NFL, and they still could be, right? I don't want to bury them right now.
Yeah, it's not over.
If they were to be successful, it would all be up here. It would all be with their brain. It would all be with their ability to reactive quickness. That has not been the case for Muasau. Instincts, all of that. That has not been the case for either of those football players this season. And both of them are subpar athletes relative to the rest of the NFL. And that's why we're seeing 53 and 27 running to the sidelines and like throwing their front hand like at the feet, just trying desperately to make a tackle, but they can't. If they're not going to be able to see the game properly and get ahead of what the offense is doing, then there are going to be liabilities out there against top level competition like Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even, I'd take on Barkley. It's the Eagles' offensive line was healthier this game. Having Landon Dickerson back makes a huge difference. Obviously, they didn't have Juergens, but they did have Toth at center, and it didn't seem to be too much of a drop-off there. The key is really just getting Dickerson back in that lineup for the Eagles. And look, it's an issue because the Giants just have not taken this linebacker position seriously at all since Joe Shane got here. They chucked a 5th-round pick at Micah McFadden. They signed Bobby Okereke, and that was essentially it. I mean, they drafted Darius Muasau in round 6 or 7, whatever it ended up being. Like, they really have not prioritized it. And, you've heard Joe Shane talk a lot about positional value. That's been something he's talked about since he got here. And within that, he doesn't really prioritize linebacker. But then I look around the NFL, man, Edgerrin Cooper for the Packers. All these top defenses that we watch on a week-to-week basis have linebackers. It's not like a thing where like these teams are elite defenses. It's like, oh, but they're chucking out Darius Muasau and Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden at linebacker. No, they have Edgerrin Cooper. They have Roquan Smith, who comes back and immediately makes a difference for that Baltimore Ravens defense this week in their their must-win game that they won. Like they were, no one thought they'd win against the Bears. Like it is a reality that in today's NFL, back in the day, I understand the concept of not believing in linebackers, like these big, like hokey off-ball linebackers, but you need speed and athleticism at that second level. You need guys who are going to get in pass lanes, which none of our linebackers ever do, by the way. We just never get in pass lanes. And then also react to the run and have the instincts and speed and athleticism to either go sideline to sideline or, shoot a gap and make a play. We just don't have that right now.
No, and even on that like first Dallas Goedert touchdown, right? It's Nubin in coverage with Muasau as the defender who has to get over. And those are two players who I don't think are playing too confidently right now, aren't seeing the football field as well as they maybe potentially could be. And now you're seeing them be a step behind. And and look, the Eagles, their passing attack was solid in this game, right? Like they didn't need to do that much because they were running the football down the Giants' throat. But the timing on that play was perfect by Jalen Hurts, and Dallas Goedert just forced Tyler Nubin to take one step back with that inside foot, gave him the alley, and then Muasau had an inside slant inside of Goddard running at him, and then he tried to clear that, and it was just pitch and catch for Goddard and Jalen Hurts. And then you had the other Goddard touchdown where it was man coverage, and it looked like it was just going to be split inside zone. Dallas Goedert was going to go and kick out the unblocked defender, which was Abdul Carter. He runs right past him, and Okereke gets picked. He gets rubbed, and he falls down, and it's just an easy touchdown for Dallas Goedert. And it's just like, of course it is, right? Dallas Goedert had like 9 catches for 108 yards and a touchdown in that first matchup. He only had, I think, like 3 in this game, but it didn't matter because the Eagles didn't need him to do all that because, again, the Giants couldn't fit the run worth a damn.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, you said it before the game, man. When we were talking, at least I believe you said it on the preview as well. My memory is not good enough to remember that, but like you had concerns about how the Giants would fit the run in this game and how they would stop. And you were right. I mean, what did they give up? 300 yards of rushing.
277.
277 is such an unacceptable number.
108 yards on 9 carries to Tank Bigsby, Dan.
Well, those were some of the worst carries at the end. Right. Those Bigsby carries, they really looked helpless on a lot of those. But that's a good point. Though I do think Bigsby is a good underrated player.
I agree.
It's not even about him, though. It's not even about him or Barkley to me. It's about their line, and it's about our second level and our third level not having the speed or the instincts to make these plays. And look, you can't win a game like that. Nick, sorry, you have something on that because I was going to transition. So go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I still want to talk a little bit about this run defense because I do think it's one of the.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah, there's a lot to go in there. And like with Tae Banks, for instance, what has Tae Banks done so wrong all season? It's been his inability to keep the run to the inside to keep the continuity of the defense intact. This game, he didn't do that, right? This game, he kept the continuity of the defense intact, but in doing so, it's still just Tae Banks out. It's still a guy who has no freaking clue what he's doing. It's still a guy who has no physicality, doesn't know how to take on the block, doesn't know how to disengage. He'll just get in, he'll just be in the position he needs to be in. And then that is a win for us. We're like, oh, he's in position where he's supposed to be. It's like the bare minimum that you're expecting.
The one where he got like rode out into the sideline and like didn't hit him at all. He just kind of like got rode out and like just kind of, that was the end of the play.
Exactly. And look, and when you have all the other, and all of these issues, they compound each other, right? When you have Tyler Nubin and Muasau, who are a little bit athletically deficient out there, and then you have Tae Banks, who, he's in his spot now to the outside, but he's not keeping it tight. He's not really threatening the running back to bring him down. Now you have Muasau traveling further. You have this, if it's not Dexter Lawrence on the defensive line, these guys are getting uprooted. The double teams are just removing Nacho, right? They're just removing these players. The Giants can't really do anything up front from that perspective either. So you have these wide running lanes. Like, how many times did you see Saquon Barkley with this wide rushing lane against this defense who, again, Javon Holland and Paulson Adebo are not world beaters. This defense really freaking sucked without those two, though. Like, it's a problem, right? And that also affects the run defense too, right? A lot of it gets assigned to Muasau, which it should, and Bobby Okereke, look, he has his issues. I didn't think he was objectively terrible in this game from a run defense perspective, but overall, you could just tell that nobody trusts each other right now on defense because they're not in position and they're just playing undisciplined football.
Yeah, and it impacts everything they can do. You have more on the run defense because I was going to transition to another aspect.
No, we can transition.
Defense. Yeah, because it impacts everything they do, because this will be the excuse we hear from the coaches all week. And I'm sure when we get to those Thursday interview day and they start to ask Shane Bowen these questions, they'll ask him about this and this will be his answer. But I don't buy into this answer at all, so I want to bring this up to you. So these are stats from Doug Analytics. The Giants defense played an even mix of man and zone coverage versus Jalen Hurts. Hurts versus man coverage, 9 of 10, 126, 4 touchdowns, plus 1.55 EPA, 9.6 yard average depth of completion. Hurts versus zone, 6 of 10, 53 yards, minus 0.15 EPA per pass, 3.1 yards average depth of completion. Wait a second. Does that make sense that Hurts was really bad against zone, really bad, but really good against man, and we played it about 50-50? Wait a second. Look at all previous splits for Jalen Hurts. He is a bad quarterback against zone coverage, and all teams play him heavy zone. The Giants played him heavy zone the last time they played Jalen Hurts, and they did some zone today, about a 50-50 mix, and they were better. They pretty much shut him down when they played zone, if you hear those numbers. But we played a lot of man, because here's the excuse we're going to hear from Shane Bowen. We didn't have guards in the back end. We're playing our backups. Blah, 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 blah. We can't play zone. We're playing our backups. That's not a good excuse. You have to play to your matchups. You have to play specific to the quarterbacks. And when you have someone with this massive of a distinction, man versus zone, and that's not every quarterback. Not everyone's going to be like Jalen Hurts, right? Not every matchup you face is going to be like, well, he's really bad against zone and really good against man. But this is that example. And you have to find a way to get your guys prepared to play a zone-heavy game, zone-heavy scheme in this game. Like, you just can't default to, well, we don't have the guys. We don't trust Corey Black, whoever it is out there. We have to play more man, because it just doesn't make any sense, because they got burned doing so. So, like, if you look at it like, well, what would have happened if we did play a lot of zone? Well, it couldn't be worse than this, dumbass. Like, look at you, you dumb idiot. Look at the splits between man and zone. He was 1,000 times better against man. So, you dumbass, it couldn't have been worse. So there's no excuse for this. There's no, well, we were too scared to do it. No, there's no excuse in my mind that checks out here. Just another tip in the cap for Shane Bowen here in the negative way.
Yeah, you're not going to catch me throwing any flowers at Shane Bowen. And that is what he's going to say. I do think there is some merit to it, just because blown coverages from a zone perspective. And that could be from the safety position. That could be from the cornerback position. That could be literally because Tae Banks is out there too, where it's like, well, let's play into some of his strengths, which you don't want to hear that. And I think it might be, it's probably a little bit more than just that, but I also think there's probably some merit to it as well. Having Corey Black out, especially after Cordell Flott went down, you have Corey Black and Tae Banks. And it's like, these guys know how to play man coverage, but
there's coaching merit to it, Nick, but it's not reality. Like the actual reality of the game, it didn't play out how he thought it would.
No, of course not. No. Yeah. And also just marrying the run fits to the coverage is, I mean, right. Get back into that, but that's obviously something the Giants are significantly struggling to execute. The defense right now is an absolute mess. The strength of the defense is the pass rush. They didn't really get to pass rush too much, but they did have Jalen Hurts get sacked like 30 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and then they surrendered a Tank Bigsby 32-yard gain on 2nd and 31, which is just insane. Like that has to be the hallmark of how we're going to remember Shane Bowen. Like we're going to remember him like Bill Shatner. We're going to remember him very poorly, right? And he deserves to be, because he's in over his head. He's not a good defensive coordinator. I think we've known this now for quite some time. But his inability to get his guys prepared for second and long situations,
right,
or his inability and the Giants' overall inability and being ineffective at taking advantage of the positive plays that they actually have defensively, right? Like, yeah, you sack Jalen first and 10 turns into a 2nd and 31. That should be a dead drive. And instead you surrender. We've seen this for 2 years.
I feel like that should be a dead drive. And this year it's been like 90% they've gotten out of these holes. I think 9 out of every 10 they've gotten out of these holes somehow. It should be 1 of every 10. Maybe if you're lucky, you get out of a 2nd and 17, a 2nd and 30. But you're right, Nick. And I think there's actually a stat behind it. I'm sorry to cut you off because I was looking for this stat here. Don't have it now, but there's a stat about that 2nd and 30 that they allowed this week. It may have been from I believe it was from WGB. I don't have it in front of me now. I'll come back to it at some point.
We'll find it. Eventually.
Yeah, we will find it at some point, but I don't think any team's really done that in a long time. It's basic gist of it.
Yo, by the way, our Jahan Dotson with that catch over Corey Black, looking like the 1st-round pick of the Washington Commanders back in the day. Or was that the football team? I think they were. That was
they were still the football team. Yeah,
that was quite the freaking play. But at that point, there was already just the dagger in the heart of the New York Giants defense. So now I stalled long enough. Did you find it or no?
No, this stat will not be found. But if you know the stat, let me know.
Comments, do your thing. But yeah, dude, overall, this was a humbling game against the Philadelphia Eagles, who are looking to get back on track. And it's going to be a long season, man. The Giants are freaking 2-6 right now.
Yeah. How many playoffs are now over?
How many seasons are we going to do this, Dan? And this is going to be where we're at, bro.
Yeah, it's 10 straight besides 2022. I think Bobby Skinner tweeted it out after the game. I may still have that one somewhere up here. Just the Giants records over the last 10 years, with the exception of 2022. They're in the first 8 games. And look, the Giants since 2017, 1-7, 1-7, 2-6, 1-7, 2-6, 6-2. 2-6, 2-6, 2-6 the last 3 years. They have been out of the playoffs for the first 8 games in 9 of the last 10 years. Just an absolute disaster. No fan base should have to go through this. Obviously, we're not the only one. The Jets are a similar type team, and there are some others like us. The Browns are probably in this camp as well. But we don't want to be in this group anymore, and it is what it is. Let's transition. Yeah. I want to do something a little bit earlier. I want to get to supers now, and then we'll get to some at the end. I want to just let people know on these live shows that we do after the games, if you want to get a question asked, leave it as a super chat question. This is one way that you can help us grow the podcast and support the podcast. And those are the questions that we're going to answer, the ones that are super chats. We're going to start to do them a little bit earlier into the show, and then we'll get to the offense after that, Nick.
Yeah, H50 Farrell, thank you so much. The refs were really bad in this game. You're telling me. Tush push play, Slayton PI is either on both players or none. 100% agree with that. The Wandale ghost penalty, The refs should be fined every bet. Yeah, look, the NFL, I don't know how they hold these referees accountable, that they say like, oh, yeah, they don't get the playoff games. This was Brad Rogers' officiating crew. It was inexcusable with everything going on with the NBA, Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups. I think, as you could tell by the graphic, if you're watching on YouTube, the FBI should be giving a call to the good old NFL, because this was rough. That's the way I termed it on that's a euphemism I used on Twitter, rough, but it was an absolute shit show on the part of the officiating. And again, that's not the primary reason or the reason why they bitched as well.
No, and we know that, but it did change the flow of the game entirely. Yes, was that a Rodney Dangerfield impression by you at the beginning?
I wasn't specifically going for Rodney, but I do. I'm a big Rodney guy. Rodney is hilarious.
He really is.
I think Dangerfield's closed down. I'm not 100% sure. Actually, no. I think it was going to. I don't know. Anyways, it's a comedy club up on the Upper East Side. Clarence, thank you so much. Getting sick of Theo's Butterfingers. Might be time to see what Fedone can do. I know it was preseason, but he caught everything thrown his way.
Yeah, so the deal with this one is, and I think every time this type of thing happens, it's now been at least 2 or 3 times, and it's just unfortunate because it's like absolute dime balls by Jaxson Dart. Like this one today was as good of a 3rd and long throw as you can ask from any quarterback, not a rookie quarterback, any quarterback. It's literally outside shoulder with velocity and pinpoint placement of Theo. Both hands can get to it, and it just drops it. And every time it happens like this, I get a text from you, Nick, like, And I get, like, the thing with Theo is, look, we know why he's playing right now. He's playing because of two things. One, when he does actually catch the football, he's a more explosive athlete than we have at tight end. I'm just going to be honest with the rest of our tight. It's not a knock on the rest of the tight ends. It's the actual truth. And you guys have seen him in space, and he has made some explosive plays. And then two, and that's not even the number one reason because he doesn't catch it a lot. Two, he has a lot of drops. Two is just the impact he makes on the line of scrimmage, given his frame and his ability to block, given his frame. No one, Fedone, I've seen, give Fedone a shot. I get it, but Fedone doesn't have Theo Johnson's frame, and neither does Daniel Bellinger. Manhurts does, but they don't want Manhurts out there because it's a pretty much the tip play, and Manhurts isn't like, yeah, he may catch the passes thrown his way more than Theo, but he's not going to get to that spot to get open. So it's really comes down to just he should be a two-way tight end. He should be our solution to all of our problems, but he's not the athlete that his RAS testing says he would be.
Yeah. Because again, like he is explosive. I would agree with you, but there are so much more that goes in your athletic profile than just your overall explosiveness. He is a very frustrating player. That's what Theo Johnson is. Bordering on Evan Ingram's status when it comes to his inability to catch the football.
Maybe worse from a drop standpoint because these are perfect throws.
Yeah, exactly, man. And it's just like I text my group chat with a bunch of my friends. Like he's just freaking frustrating because there is potential there. I think, even though it's not necessarily as much as his testing would suggest. But man, just dropping a 3rd and 12 perfect dime. Right. You know what I mean? After all the adversity this team is going through,
he might have scored a touchdown on that drive. If not,
I know. So yeah, he needs to step it up and be just more consistent because it's frustrating. Isser, thank you so much, brother. What's worse, Giants run D or the calls by the refs? Probably the Giants run D, but I don't know. The calls by the refs were bad. But the Giants run D is within the control of the New York Giants, right? Like the referees, they're making deals. They're trying to, they're doing their thing. They're making an extra buck or whatever. Now I'm being glib. I'm just screwing around. But the Giants run D, that is on them. Right. That is their issue. And they just were horrendous. 277 on the deck. What are we doing? Clarence, thank you. Don't think we win, even if the refs were better. Just infuriating to see their incompetence have a bigger impact on the game. It's ruining the sport.
It's not good. Like again, maybe the Giants don't win. There's no chance in my mind they get blown out if the refs make all those calls correct. Because first of all, they take the 7 off the board for the Eagles' first touchdown with the fumble from Kayvon. That's 7. The 3 I talked about with the 3rd and 12 DPI on Corey Black, that was bullshit. So that's 10 we're up to now. The 7 was Slayton, that's 17. That's at least 17. And then I think the false start puts them in 2nd and 12. They probably settle for 3 there too. So we're looking at between 17 and 21 points.
Yeah, and the only one that really went against the Eagles was the Jaxson Dart fumble one. But other than that, and I think what was it? A few.
I don't know if that was even a bad call because
it was overturned. It was it was overturned though. That's more so why I was I peaked my. But the other one that I saw Eagles fans just mind-numbingly like bitching about on Twitter was the Jalen Hurts at the sidelines with Brian Burns. I'm like, Jalen Hurts is going for the first down. It's like, please just be objective and like just evaluate the game with like honesty. That was all I would ask. Like, you're just delusional. That
was a great no call by the refs there.
Yes, 100%. It's the only thing they did well in that game.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. What's worse, Lil Jordan 40 time or Nubin's 40 time? Nubin looks so slow. Does Corey Black already have better ball skills than Tae Banks? He at least looked at the football, right? But Jahan Dotson mossed him on that one. And then, I would say little Jordan Humphrey still, even though Nubin does look pretty slow. Running next to Saquon Barkley will do that, but yeah, it's rough, dude. It's not been a good second year for that draft class right
Thank you to everybody donating and sending in super chats, by the way.
Absolutely. Moneyberg, thank you. Every season, halfway through the season, the team is decimated by injuries and looks completely different than week 1. At what point is the NFL just an inherently flawed and frankly bad product?
Well, no, Moneyberg, because not every team goes through this. The 49ers have had more injuries than the Giants to this point in the year. They've been way more snake bitten, and they win football games because A, they have great coaching, and B, they have great management and great roster management. So they have depth. The Giants don't have depth. It's part of the reason why we look so bad once we have all these injuries.
Yeah.
It's a different team for the 49ers, but they can find ways to win games via coaching and depth. And the best teams can.
The Giants miss Paulson Adebo for one game, and then we have to go and claim Corey Black, who left the New York Giants off the Jets practice squad. And remember, he wasn't going to the Jets active roster. He went to their practice squad. And then we were like,
He
all
didn't
right,
like
whatever.
it here, apparently.
Let's bring him back. We got to bring him back. And then he's forced to play significant snaps when one player goes down. Like, that's just the lack of depth that we have, because the Giants have missed on picks like Tae Banks. We've missed on a lot of day 3 picks. We missed on day 2 picks. The Giants do not have the depth to suffer any injuries whatsoever. That is a massive problem. And we spend so much money in free agency to try and overcome our inability to effectively draft. This is something that has transcended multiple regimes. This goes back to Jerry Reese. This goes back to Dave Gettleman. And Dave Gettleman was the best of all of the drafters of the 3 general managers that I'm talking about. And now Joe Shane, we have enough draft capital invested in this roster to see that there are way too many players who were selected by this regime who this coaching staff don't want to put out in the fucking football field, dude. That's a problem. Yeah. That's a big issue.
Well, yeah, Jalen Hyatt was inactive today, which is not something I want to discuss right now because it's so infuriating that they could trade up for a player in the 3rd round, be so bad as they are at wide receiver, and then this guy's still inactive. Absolutely insane. I mean, people have asked, like I see in the comments, John May says, is he going to get dealt tomorrow? For what? A bag of peanuts? Like, who's trading for Jalen Hyatt? What are we going to get? A 7th round pick back if we're lucky? I mean, come on. Like, nobody's going to trade for this guy right now. And you know what, Nick? We didn't even really like his tape, if we're being honest. I listened back like a few months ago to our Tillman versus Hyatt. We were both just like, there were things we liked about Hyatt, his ball tracking and his speed, but like, those are things that we haven't seen at all at the NFL level, except for his first year. It's like, what happened to those?
Yeah, I mean, Tillman we liked. We liked Tillman.
Looked like a complete receiver, potentially. This guy never looked like a complete receiver. You don't want to draft these types of guys, man. No. These small guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Should we have kept playing Schlottman versus JMS? I mean, I thought the offensive line, and we'll get into this after this, I thought the offensive line, and I know the Giants suffered 5 sacks. One of them was probably attributed to the offensive line. If we're looking at who's culpable, Jaxson Dart, I felt like Jaxson Dart played good in this game, but Jaxson Dart held on to the football a lot in this game.
And some of those could just be coverage, by the way. We're not blaming that all on Dart. We have to watch the tape.
Of course. Well, I think it's like the catch-22 that you have when you play like Dart. I love the way Jaxson Dart plays football because he extends plays. He has that innate ability in the pocket to extend. You have like 10-second plays, 8-second plays. That's a long freaking time, right? For the offensive line to be blocking. But in doing that, you're going to put yourself into a position where you don't find solutions sometimes, and you're going to take those sacks, especially when you're in catch-up mode like the Giants were for the majority of this football game.
Yep. True. We'll have to also see, because, I think at least some of the ones last week, I just felt like, yes, some were on Dart. Maybe one was on the O-line, talking about last week. And then a few, at least, were on just nothing open, for no receivers open. I don't know what Dart could have even really done. We'll see if that was the case. Like, I don't expect to be too much of a jump this week with the receivers we had on the field.
What do we got here? Moneyberg, thank you. How did the run defense do a 180 from last game? I think it was the injuries that they had. The Eagles playing the Giants for the 2nd consecutive time. The Eagles controlling the line of scrimmage. I would say massively. That was a big thing. I felt like the Giants' edge rushers, too, were not nearly as disciplined as we've seen, and that includes the good ones like Brian Burns and Kayvon. So I just think overall the Eagles get the check in the box of winning the individual matchups that they needed to win, and the Giants were also a little bit hamstrung with some of the injuries. I think those injuries, I think that has a bigger deal than we maybe notice, because the lack of depth that the Giants have, and even with those players healthy, Adebo and Javon Holland, the Giants kind of sucked from a run defense standpoint, would have a breakdown every now and again.
True. Yeah. And some of it is like, look, the Broncos didn't really run a lot against the Giants, which we didn't really understand why. And then when they did, they found success. So it's like a lot of it is just the Eagles finally committed to just taking advantage of what is a structurally imperfect Giants run defense, and really has been since Shane Bowen got here, which is very ironic, because when we watched Hard Knocks with the New York Football Giants in the offseason, we had that really awkward scene where Joe Shane and Brian Dable are in the office and they're going over stats from Shane Bowen's run defense stats with the Titans, as if they're like unaware completely of context that goes behind any of that, and the little meaning, the meaningless, really how meaningless it is. And then 2, that it was Mike Vrabel's defense. Like, who are we trying to kid? And I've heard from some people that have told me, who know a little bit about the show behind the scenes, that was not done up for Hard Knocks. That was a genuine conversation those two had, which is very, very troubling, to say the least, if that's what they're discussing in their office. Shane Bowen's quote unquote run defense stats. But it's ironic because that was supposed to be his, like, even they showed the scene in Hard Knocks with Shane Bowen like sitting in the room with the defense, like, first thing we're gonna do is stop the run. But it's like, all right, well then where is that? Like, if that was your commitment, if your commitment is that, like, because I watched the Steelers, Nick, for example, and they're a team that straight up from a defensive schematic standpoint is committed to stopping the run. And I watch them every week, and that burns them a lot in the past game, the Steelers. It really does. It burned them tonight multiple times. It burned them the weeks before against Flacco on Thursday night when I watched them, but they are committed to stopping the run. We are not committed to stopping the run.
No, we play at a pretty deep defense a lot of the time.
Yeah,
a lot of times, and I just feel like there's some bubbles on the line of scrimmage. What I mean is like a location where an offensive lineman has easy access. There's nobody to impede him, right? They can just like a B gap bubble, right?
Right.
You can just climb right up to the linebacker, and then Muasau, who's already a limited player, has Landon Dickerson in his face. He's like, like, what am I gonna do about this?
God forbid Shane Bowen goes into this game like, I got some guys down in the secondary. I'm facing Jalen Hurts, who really struggles at times.
No AJ Brown.
Not? No AJ Brown, right? All I have to worry about is one receiver, really. God forbid he comes in with like the game plan Wink Martindale had the first week of the 2022 season against the Titans and Derrick Henry, right? God forbid he puts 5 on the line of scrimmage for once in his life.
Or the game plan that the Giants had towards the end of the season last year.
Oh, yeah. Well, when they had to, when Dex was out. Yep.
Yeah. But again, like, then you're really kind of putting a lot on the plate of Tae Banks and
but you're also then putting a lot on Hurts's plate to make plays.
That's life. That's trade-offs, right? Like,
and I'm okay with that. Like, dare Hurts to do it, but shut down the run first. Because I'd much rather dare Hurts to do it and shut down the run than let them run all over us. Because I don't really trust Hurts as a drop back passer.
I get you, man. Isser, thank you. Finally, Giants say it all. Dart, embarrassing. Giants say it all.
That.
Isser, please clarify what you're.
I don't think that's what you're saying either.
Yeah, and then one more thing. What's worse, Giants kickoff coverage or Tom Brady's broadcast coverage? I mean, not Jason Garrett bad, but how can Dean Blandino outshine him?
I didn't mind Brady actually.
So I see this all the time where people on Twitter, and this is no shot at you, Isser, at all, bro. Thank you so much, by the way. People will always harp on how bad like a certain analyst is, and I don't really think a lot of these people are that bad at it. I think they're like fine, like I don't think I think some are definitely better than others. I think like Greg Olson is an exceptional listen. I like Tony Romo.
Yeah, he's the best.
But I even like I like Chris Collinsworth, right? And I see people, I like Joe Buck, and I see people like kind of shitting all over them all the time. Like, I'm fine with it personally. I'm not really too picky, I think, with whoever's calling the game.
I do think there are, so like Olsen is the best by far. I mean, I did appreciate the what Tom Brady said about Jaxson Dart. He seems to be really, really likes what he's seeing from him so far.
Yeah, absolutely. H50 Pharaoh, thank you so much, by the way. Thank you for that sizable donation. We appreciate it. Zach Bond did the illegal hip drop tackle on Cam Skattebo because Skattebo embarrassed Bond 2 weeks ago. Bond should not be allowed to play for the rest of the season if coaches knew. If coaches knew about it before the play, lost draft picks. That'd be like a bounty gate type of situation almost. I don't know if it was an illegal hip drop tackle. Like I hated the way the play.
I don't know the rule though. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I hated it. It certainly looks like it, but I didn't know if the hip drop tackle meant like you had the football and you're kind of running towards it. This was like a play where he was trying to play through the catch point and landed on him awkwardly. It definitely resembles the hip drop tackle for sure, but I don't know if there's like a stipulation in the rule that would allow that type of play to be okay. I'm not sure. I don't really know the rule, and I don't want to speak out of my rear end. But either way, right when it happened, I was like, I just knew it, like because it had it had the look of a hip drop tackle, the way, and you saw his ankle, and I saw it right away, and I was like, that's just devastating, man.
Yep.
Nothing else I can really say about that, but that's just entirely too unfortunate. Sir, thank you so much. How bad? Jets closing in on our win total. Yeah.
Yeah, the Jets are 1-8. The Giants are 2-6. Is that what it is now?
Yeah.
Jets had a bye week, I guess. Yeah. Or no. 1-8. They must be.
No, it's 1-7, right?
1-7. I guess they're about to go 0-8. Yeah. I mean, look, it is embarrassing. It is what it is. But this is not. Let's take a step back for a second, Isser. Until today, the Giants really haven't been blown out. This was the first I tweeted about. This is the first time I felt this year, Nick, like it was old Giants. By old Giants, I mean this recent stretch of like the last 4 years of Giants or whatever it was, the last since 2017, like where it's like we're in these games in the middle of a season like this where it's just blowout central. The games aren't even fun to watch. Like a third quarter, you can midway through a third, you can like essentially, if you really wanted to, go to red zone. If you're a fan, we're not gonna, we have to watch. But like the fans, whatever, I'll go to red zone. It's 30-13, and it's like I guess we have the ball back for a possession, but who really cares? This was the first game it felt like that. So yes, the Giants only have 2 wins, but they idiotically lost the Saints game with 5 turnovers. They inexplicably lost the Broncos game with just, I don't even know what to describe that. So really, it's like not the same.
I agree. Yeah, this was the one game where it was like the Giants just thoroughly. Yeah. You could argue week 1, maybe. It felt like
Redskins didn't really have offense until the end of that game.
That's true. That's true. It was just I think we went in there with high expectations, and the Giants kind of got bitched.
We just couldn't do anything offensively, I felt like, in that game. And then eventually the defense cracked. But that wasn't like the same feel as like this, where like at one point it was 30-13 and there's still a ton of game clock left. And it's like, all right, we got a possession, but who even cares about this possession?
You got like Jeremiah Trotter making like big plays, these backup Eagles players. You're like, oh gosh, dude, what's going on there? When they fire Brian Dable and Joe Shane, H50 Pharaoh says, I hope the Giants keep Carmen Brasil. Yeah, there's a couple of positional coaches that I definitely
we'll see what happens. This is the start of like, if they are to get fired, this is the start of it. If they have games like this one where they get blown out, and they're not competitive in the third and fourth quarter, that's how they get fired. If they can stay competitive in games and still lose, they have a shot.
And look, this year is different than every other year when it comes to that because of Jaxson Dart.
Yeah.
But the lack of depth is going to come up again and rear its ugly head because these players are going to be injured and they're not necessarily going to be incentivized to come back and play hampered, right? Not everybody is Brian Burns, and nor should they. If the season's over and they are legitimately injured and your team is out of it, like they should rest up and look out for themselves. Like it's a business. Like it would be wise for some of them to do that, unfortunately for us, but that's going to put the Corey Blacks of the world on the football field. And that's going to lead to more losing and more turmoil and possibly the end of the Brian Dable era.
Yeah.
All right. We have a decent amount more, so we can maybe get into the offense, but I want to read this one. Javier, nice day. Thank you so much. Says, great podcast. I feel bad for Cam. He'll be back. Yeah. I hope. I mean, he had emergency surgery right now. I'm not a doctor at all, so I don't know exactly. I saw them. I think Dr. Cho, is it?
Chow. Yeah. David Chow.
David Chow came out and said he's uncertain. He doesn't know the specifics of the situation, but the emergency surgery was concerning to him because it may indicate that there is an open wound, that
infection,
or that could possibly lead to an infection at the tibia or the fibula.
I don't want to speculate on that just yet, though.
No, we're not. I mean, I guess we are kind of speculating, but like that's an expert who works on NFL players. I think his opinion, I think we could parrot that opinion while also acknowledging that you and I don't know shit. Like I think that's completely fair and with
it. No, I'll explain what I meant by that, Nick. I didn't mean it in that way. I meant Dr. Chow has a very checkered past. If you look into it,
gotcha.
And I personally have learned over the years to not trust a single one of these Twitter doctors that aren't actually on the scene and looking at the injury. They're just speculating. I meant they are speculating, I'm not saying we're speculating. They are just
I know. Yeah, no, but I think
they've obviously seen cases. They have more expertise than us, but it's not really applicable.
It's the only reason why I think it's a little bit more relevant, though, is because the surgery did happen right now.
Yeah, you're right.
Whereas like Fred Warner's, I think it was like Wednesday. Dak Prescott's was 2 days out. They usually wait for the swelling to go down. So,
true.
We don't know. It either way, it's just horrible. It sucks so bad because the Giants with Cam Skattebo and Jaxson Dart, but like with Cam, like there is a breath of fresh air with this organization. This organization that has been in turmoil for quite some time now, right? Cam Skattebo provided a certain energy that just galvanized the New York Giants offense to the point where this guy was like everywhere and this happened. It's just like,
you're right.
It's just like insane, man. Of course.
And I'll say this, for me, because I believe there's a few things on the Skattebo front. For me, and people will call this crazy, I don't really care. I'm just going to tell you, it's my opinion. If I could choose one of two things to happen today, the Giants beat the Eagles, but Cam Skattebo gets this injury, or the Giants lose this game and Cam Skattebo doesn't get this injury, I'm personally choosing the second one, and I just don't care. You can blame me all you want. We would have been, 3-5, and we're not going to the playoffs anyway. It's not about that. Yes, an Eagles win would have been good. I am very devastated over this Cam Skattebo injury. Yes, I would have preferred him to be healthy over getting this win today. I would 100% do that every time in my life. And I do not care if you blame me for that. If you criticize me in the comments, I do not give a flying F about that, because I am worried about this injury for a multitude of reasons. I'm worried for Jaxson Dart for the rest of the season. I'm worried for the energy of the offense and what Cam Skattebo brings off the field. I'm worried for the red zone offense, where Skattebo is really starting to come into his own as a route runner. That route he ran was super sick, and that created a touchdown for us when we never get touchdowns. We bog down in the red zone all the time. No one can replace that role in the red zone. He gets tough yards in the red zone. He scores touchdowns in the red zone, which we struggled to do last year with Tracy, to the point of having to take him out of the game. So I would have totally traded this win for that. And I am worried about, not from David Chow, but I'm just worried about the idea of, like, is he going to come back himself? Because I just don't know. You never know with injuries. You just are very uncertain. Alex Smith had a similar injury, never came back himself. So it's just devastating, man. Like, we have Neighbors and Skattebo, our two best offensive players, skill players, I should say, injured in 1 year. And like Neighbors, I hope will be back fine. It's an ACL. It's usually okay. And maybe Cam can be too, but it's devastating, and it's going to kill them in the red zone for the rest of the year. It's going to kill them in early down. It's going to kill the fire that he brought with Jaxson Dart. Their connection is growing in the passing game. It's just horrific across the board.
Yeah, man, you nailed it, man. Horrific across the board. Just deflating, really. You saw the emotion that Jaxson Dart was displaying right after it happened. It's heavy, man. It's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like, I'm sure everybody listening to this right now, excuse me, they felt it. Like when it happened, it was just like, you gotta be like, I genuinely felt like terrible for the kid in the situation, right? Like in my freaking inside, you know what I mean? That
yeah, I was watching the game with my dad, and he's talking to me about plays and stuff after it. I'm just like despondent, and he's like, "What's going on?" Like, just like, the Cam injury, like it just ruins my whole day. Like, I don't even at that point, I don't even really care about the game anymore. I can't get over injuries. I've never, as a fan, been able to feel good about injuries, or like get to a point of not caring about them, but like passing over them. Like, to me, they're yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, man. Especially one like that, man. Like, I grew up like hearing so much about the Joe Theismann injury, right? With the bones, like with Lawrence Taylor, and like ones like this, it has that similar type of feeling, man, where that's not supposed to look like that, you know? And it's
right.
Yeah.
And you hope, and the other thing is, like, Cam proved everyone wrong. A lot of people thought he wouldn't translate to the NFL. We watched his tape. We thought he would. We loved him. We had a strong grade. He proved it all. And then, despite how dominant he's been, we went over it, I think, last podcast, the one before, like from a statistical standpoint, both from a total yards and rushing touchdown standpoint, he's been dominating the last few rookie classes. But he was also growing another part of his game. That's the most frustrating part. Like, I could totally start to see the Giants utilizing him more as a one-on-one winner, as a route runner, which I saw a ton at Arizona State. Like, that red zone route was specifically, the Giants were like, we got a look we like. We have him matched up against us. And who else is going to do that? Like, Tyrone Tracy, I don't know if he'll be able to do that. You haven't really seen it yet. He just doesn't look the same to me as a route runner, despite playing receiver. And Devin Singletary, we don't really have that anymore. And look, I hope he comes back the same player, but there's just no guarantee of it.
Yeah, no, it's that's terrible situation. With the rest of the offense, though, if we want to just jump into that, like, look, the Giants, they had 246 offensive yards. The Eagles outgained them on the ground alone. You can argue, though, with a lot of those penalties, it should be more. I mean, Darius Slayton was at a 68-yard touchdown pass that I don't know. Like, I genuinely do not know how you call passing. Like, and I saw the push off, like right when the camera panned over, you kind of see an arm extension from Slayton and their separation. So I saw it. So I was like, okay. But then when you watch prior to that, you see the holding and you see how physical the defensive backs they were the entire game, and you say, how do you actually throw that flag, man? Like, that is wildly frustrating. That negated a long explosive touchdown for Darius Slayton, who really needs it at this point, because Darius Slayton, what do you have, 3 catches in this game for like 20 something yards, or maybe a little bit more than that. I think Slayton had
one really nice play at the beginning,
2 catches for 26 yards. And yeah, that was a 19-yard catch on the little spot in breaker. And then he had good yards after the catch. And but the offense just in general was kind of, I don't want to say they were getting like, I felt like the pass protection was fine again, which is, maybe a silver lining here if there is one. But the Jaxson Dart suffered 5 sacks, as we said. I think a lot of that probably was on Dart, but even with that, and even though Dart finished 14 of 24 for 193 and a touchdown, and with also a rushing touchdown as well, I still look at this and I say, there's still a lot to take away from this game that would that makes me think highly of Jaxson Dart, because there were some high level throws in this game. Even like the 3rd and 12 Theo Johnson throw, not the one that Theo Johnson dropped. That one was spectacular. But the other one where he was running along the line of scrimmage and there was a defender who was closing in on him, and then there was another underneath defender, and he had to put touch over both of them and then just put it right into Theo's hands to get the first down. That was
Did
a
you hear how
spectacular
Tom Brady
play.
described that one? I thought
What
you
did he
loved that.
say? What did
You
he
didn't hear
say?
that?
I mean, I'm usually doing like so much during
Oh
I
man,
was
you're
probably
gonna
trying to
love
cut the
this one.
film.
The listeners are gonna love this one. Tom Brady is, and we've seen Dart make throws like that on his tape at Wake. I think Wake Forest had one of the game against Wake Forest had one of those. Just he has that natural ability to change trajectory, and he did it on to Humphrey in the red zone on that drop against the Eagles.
Yeah.
Tom Brady described it as a lob wedge, as like pitching up a lob wedge. It's a golf shot with a 60 degree where you just kind of throw it up there, and it's soft and it has that nice touch, and it doesn't roll out once it hits the green. It's a great feeling. It's rare in golf for me, but it's a great feeling. No, I'm kidding. I can hit some lob wedges, but Jaxson Dart had that throw. He had the Theo Johnson drop on 3rd and 12, which was an absolute dime. The Slayton ball was an absolute dime that could call back for OPAI. Like that's a perfect throw by Jaxson Dart on a 3rd and 12 go ball where he sees the one-on-one. The throw at the end of the game was insane to Wandale, where he just maneuvers the pocket, rolls back to his left. That one looked to me like the bowl game throw he made at Ole Miss in his final season, where he was rolling fully to his left, his opposite shoulder, and he's still able to generate a crazy amount of velocity. That throw to Wandale, I'm going to go over it on the All 22 tomorrow with you, and we'll show it. But like that throw to Wandale on that final meaningless drive, like to get that kind of velocity rolling to your left, that's an arm talent. That's a bimp arm talent flash. And then the throw, like you said, the lob wedge, though, that's a boop arm talent flash. So like he looked really good at times in this game, and he's working with nothing. And like the stat line should have been like 270 or 280 if Theo doesn't drop it and the OPI doesn't get called back.
And this is also with little Jordan Humphrey running routes, and there's no Malik Neighbors out there, right? Like Daniel Bellinger missed part of this game with, I think, a neck injury. And we're talking about, like, and I love Daniel Bellinger, but we're talking about like a Daniel Bellinger missing time significantly affecting the Giants' passing attack. It shouldn't be that way for your second string tight end. And there is some credit that Kafka and Dable deserve for being able to put Dart in a position with all of these injuries to still be successful, which is also a massive credit to Dart, using 12 personnel, right? Like their success, their base offense right now is a 12 personnel vertical passing attack. That's not like very common in today's NFL. A lot of these 12 personnel teams, they'll run a little bit more ground and pound. I think the Giants want to be ground and pound. Cam Skattebo fit that very well. I don't know where that is right now without Cam, though. I don't know if Tracy's going to be able to embody that.
And I think the run game took a significant step back without Skattebo.
Yeah. And like there was one play where Skattebo, it looked like it was gonna be like a 1 yard gain, 2 yard gain, and he just like spun off of a tackle, fell forward for like 5 yards. And it's like plays like that you're just not getting from anybody else on this roster.
There's not a lot of second and manageables.
Exactly. Second and manageable situations. That just opens the playbook up so much because the Giants, look, they run on second and long a decent amount, right? To try to get themselves into third and manageable. But when you're in a 2nd and 5, they'll run the play action. They'll do RP. Like it forces.
And that was working for a while, by the way, because they had Skattebo who could pick up 4 or 5. And then it's like, all right, it's 3rd and 6. Like you don't really want to call second and long run. It's pretty much the dumbest call in football besides the goal line fade, but whatever. Then this game, once he went out, I found us in a lot of second and long runs that led to 3rd and 9s, 3rd and 8s, these horrible situations. And so I have a bad feeling we're going to start to see that moving forward rest of season. We're going to be running a lot on these 2nd and longs after an incomplete, and then in our horrible 3rd and long situations that we've been in.
And just the sheer fact that like Jalen Hyatt is not dressing with the current state of the wide receiver room is telling. It's telling. Maybe there is a deal on the table. Like I don't know what that would be, but
well, I did see something before the game. I don't know who it was, but someone mentioned that Joe Shane had a conversation on the bench with Jalen Hyatt before the games. I don't know what that was about. Yeah. Maybe it's something with a trade. I don't know. I do see one thing I do want to mention though here in the super chats. We're going to get to it, but someone had a wildly generous donation in the super chats. I'll say this moving forward because I haven't mentioned this yet on the pod. You've probably seen it now in all the beginning of our podcast. We did start a buy us a coffee. So if you do plan on you want to donate to the show, you're leaving these incredibly generous super chats. I would say moving forward, do not leave them as super chats. Just leave a lighter super chat and use the donation that you were going to make in the super chat on the buy the coffee page because for reasons that I don't want to say in case we get docked by this service that we're currently recording on. But
I'll just say this: we use YouTube, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want some of that is going to this, the way to get it all going to us is to buy me a coffee. But anyway, back to this game. One more thing that bothered me, and it always will bother me, and I don't care. And I know it's another controversial thing, just like my take earlier that I know is not pretty, which is I would 100% prefer Cam Skattebo not get that injury to winning this football game. I also do not believe, and I never will believe, and this has been true of every single season since he took over as coach, I do not believe that Brian Daboll has player safety in mind. I don't believe he thinks long-term within a game to run back-to-back quarterback runs in the red zone with Jaxson Dart. Back-to-back quarterback runs. Oh, we got a touchdown on one of them. Go F. I want to say it, but go F yourself, dude. The game is over. Don't you dare care about getting a touchdown there. You could say we're growing, we're repping things out, we're learning from it. Learn from it with a pass. You want to let Jaxson Dart throw a touchdown pass? Go ahead on that final series. But to call 2 quarterback runs when the game is over and get it, and he had a low hit from Trotter. That first one looked nasty, dude. Trotter racked at him, and it was just like, that looked like it hurt. And Dart's tough guy, so he just played through it and then ran again. But no, enough of that bullshit from Brian Daboll. I've seen him do this with Daniel Jones, and I've seen him do this with now Jaxson Dart. A lack of feel for what's more important right now. And when a game is full, when you're out of a game and there's 2 minutes left and you're down 3 touchdowns, it's not getting your goddamn quarterback hit.
I want to say the second one was his own read, but I think you're completely spot on.
It was his own read.
Yeah. When he called the first one, though, I was like, oh. And what makes me even more like think about this, you prognosticate in the weeks to come. We don't have Cam Skattebo anymore, as we've said. Cam Skattebo is getting that football if he's healthy there. So now we're going to be subjecting Jaxson Dart to some of these hits.
Yep. Because I don't want him taking these low hits. Like a low hit like that, the one Trotter put on that first run, that is a nasty hit. That could have been it. And if he had gotten injured on that play, can you imagine the vitriol from Giants fans to Brian Daboll after this game if Jaxson Dart got injured, down 3 touchdowns, running a goal line run? Like, are you out of your effing mind? And I did appreciate early in the game, I think it was like the first drive, Jaxson Dart had an opportunity when he broke pocket to run, and he didn't, and he threw it to Slate. And I was like, this is a good mature, and there's still things he needs to mature on. Like, there are times where he's in the pocket, navigating, trying to find stuff, and takes a sack where he could have thrown it away. And I understand people have some frustrations with that. He'll get better with that. But the unnecessary hits when you're down 3 scores, I'll just never be for it. And this is something Brian Daboll showed with Daniel Jones and now with Dart. So it's not just something new for him.
No, 100%, man. I'm going to get to a couple more supers and maybe we'll jump back into some offense. Do you have any more offensive takes you want to get to right now?
We talked about Dart, the things we liked. We talked about that, the Skattebo. No, not necessarily.
All right, Isser, thank you so much. Are they just not playing Dex at nose tackle? When they're in tight fronts, they usually do. So 5-man fronts. They don't use it a ton, but they do use it sometimes, but not nearly enough, apparently, as I think the Eagles are still running at the moment. But yeah, no, it's a completely different defensive structure than what Wink Martindale was. So it's not
wrong. It's quite frankly not the right structure for the talent we have here. If we're gonna
and that's an interesting. We could probably do an entire podcast on that because as much as I think Shane Bowen is not a great defensive coordinator, and I think he's unimaginable. Like we belabored the point at this point.
Yeah,
I don't think he has the personnel to maximize his system what he wants to do. I think he's playing with Wink Martindale's personnel, and there's part of me.
Why are you hiring someone?
I think they were desperate. They wanted.
There had to be someone who run a somewhat similar scheme to what Wink ran.
Like you would hope that a defensive coordinator would be flexible enough.
That's the real thing.
Yes, of course. So this isn't a pass to, or I'm not trying to absolve Shane Bowen by any means, but Bowen is not the defensive coordinator to overcome not having players who perfectly fit into what he is attempting to do.
The problem is he's one of those coaches who wants the players to fit into his scheme rather than fitting his scheme around the players.
It's that, and I just don't think he's like that great. Yeah, exactly. I just think it's that. I just think I have a scheme. I have a philosophy of what I want to do. And if I don't have the players to do it, well, I'm going to try to fit these guys into it, and I'll change the little things here and there. But a really great coach is able to absolutely work around the deficiencies and the strengths and weaknesses of the personnel that is on the roster.
Correct.
Of course, that's not Shane Bowen.
Correct.
Hi, Moneyberg. Thank you so much. In '99, the Stanley Cup was won on a goal where Brett Hull's skate was in the crease when that was illegal. Next season, they got rid of that rule. Hopefully, this will be the I agree, Moneyberg. I think that this could be the tush push equivalent. I believe the NHL in the 2014 Stanley Cup playoffs, what was it, game 2 when Dwight King ran into the King, Henrik Lundqvist, and then shortly after a goal went in. I think after that they instituted a rule in the NHL that allowed you to challenge goaltender interference, because that happened on a big stage and it was pretty controversial at the time in that 5-game series against the Kings.
You know what I just experienced right there, Nick?
So
I experienced what you experience when I talk about golf. You talking about hockey. I just have no idea about any of that. So now I know what it's like.
Yeah, no, I love hockey. Hockey's nice, man. But Rangers need to, But anyways, H50 Pharaoh, thank you so much. I wish
Rangers
we
are
had
ass, aren't they, this year?
I don't know. We're gonna get into this. H50 Pharaoh, I wish we had Love and McKinney on this team instead of Nubin. Yeah, that would be nice. Big Julian Love guy, big Xavier McKinney. We were both really in on bringing back Xavier McKinney that year.
Yeah.
Even though 17 million was a lot, in hindsight, I think we should have even been more on it. Though I think we should have pounded the table, but I don't think it was like ferocious pounding, right? It was like bum, 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 but it wasn't like I'd crush it. You know what I'm saying?
I guess so, buddy. Go ahead. Ferociously pound that point.
I will. No, okay. I might the 2nd and 31 conversion was the turning point. Yeah, no, that was. I remember Burns, was that his second sack of the game? Because I know he had 2 sacks again. And I was like, dude, 2nd and 31, get the football back, still a tight game. We got. Right. And then I just watched Tank Bigsby. I'm like, it's not even Saquon Bart. Oh, he's still going. Oh, he's still going up at the sideline.
31 yards on a second. It's just insane. We're the only team that does this type of shit consistently.
It seems like it, man. And the tackling is just bad, dude. And that's an effort thing. Like the tackling on that play where Muasau and who was the other one? Just they like ran into each other. There was a Belton and they just like fell down. I'm just like, oh God, this is embarrassing. Yes, sir. Thank you. Is Belton better than Nubin at this point? I think he's playing his role better, but I think Nubin has more on his plate than Belton does.
Yeah, 100%.
So his role, Belton's role he's doing. Like Belton's fine in his role. It's just when you get him out of that role, and he's assuming more of a role without Javon Holland there. But they put Raheem Lane in the game to play deep safety to allow Belton and Nubin to be closer to the line of scrimmage. And I'm not going to argue that because I think both of those players are better closer to the line of scrimmage. I don't really trust either of them coming down from depth, especially Nubin at this point, unfortunately.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
Rob, thank you so much. Despite all the negatives, our quarterback still delivered big plays, but drops and bad calls took too many of them away. Love the show. Thank you, Rob.
That's the thing, like we would be open and honest if we didn't think Jaxson Dart was playing well in this game. Obviously, last game, there's no way to say he wasn't playing well. The tape showed it. But, like, we'll go to the tape. And, like, if the tape confirms what I think it will based on the broadcast, I think he played pretty damn well today. The ball placement was really good across the board. I saw 1 or 2 misses from a ball placement standpoint, but not as many as I see with a lot of quarterbacks that I watch on a week-to-week basis from a ball placement standpoint. And then he made some incredible throws out of structure. He made some incredible throws rolling left. Like, just made a lot of good decision, extended plays, created and manipulated space in the pocket. Like, he still looked good to me. Like, if you look, he'll have a bad game soon at this point. Like, it's obvious. He lost Skattebo. He lost Neighbors. Things are getting worse. Illuminor had his worst game of the season. I think he's hurt right now, which is not good. He looked hurt out there to me, like just watching him after plays, like kind of limping around on the field. It's going to get ugly at some point. Like, we're going to have a bad bottom out Dart game, and we will call it out if it happens and when it happens. But, like, this ain't it. Like, we'll see the film. We'll confirm it. But I agree with you, Rob. The QB delivered big plays, and a lot of just kind of got screwed by drops in that 68-yarder call back.
And not to be redundant, but look at who this rookie quarterback is throwing the football to right now. And you didn't even see Wandell in this game, right? Like, we didn't
step back for Wandell.
Well, I would like to know exactly what was going on. Did they put Cooper DeJean on him? And like, I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and watch the tape.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Kevin H, thank you. Gambling boom plus botched officiating equals sketchy. I'll bring this back up. Yep. And yep. Yeah, no, you're right. It's sketchy. I don't actually think that, but it was almost inexcusably poor officiating to the point where Brad Rogers is going to have a very uncomfortable phone call this week.
And I've played. We don't need to get into this. Never mind. I was going to talk about like the whole cheating scandal with the NBA. Like some of the stuff that went down in that poker game, like was crazy. And I've played in so many of those, like those types of poker games before. I've never actually caught cheating, but I'm sure I've been cheated before.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I have to imagine, dude. People who are high rollers in poker, dude, this is talking about a lot of money there. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Did playing Slayton hurt our 12 personnel success? Nah, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, Slayton, dude. This has been Darius Slayton his entire time here. I think Darius Slayton is a fine NFL wide receiver. He's our wide receiver 1 right now. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah.
He's not a wide receiver 1. He shouldn't be relied on to be a wide receiver 1. But he did a good job on the route that he won, even though it wasn't the hand jostling, but he had to jostle through contact and holding. There was defensive holding on that play. You either flag the Eagles on that, or you let it stand, allow them to be physical, or offsetting penalties or something at the very least. But it's just inexcusable by the officiating is what it is.
Yes.
H50 Pharaoh, thank you. I was one of the people defending the NFL being rigged. After watching the refs today, I could see how it is rigged. The refs called the penalty on the Eagles, but when they announced it, they said the Giants and started laughing. Yeah, I mean, I don't.
I think you're mostly joking here with this last part with the Giants laughing thing. As far as like NFL rig goes, I just gonna hope it's not, because that would be really unfortunate for all the time that me and you have spent covering this sport and putting our emotion and our passion and our hours, blood, sweat, tears into this thing, like for it to all be rigged.
Bear 3156, thank you. Do you think this job will attract a good general manager and coach, since we might have found our quarterback and have a good defense that could be better with? Yeah, I do. I think if that person likes, if they like Jaxson Dart, right? Like I think it could certainly attract. And it's also the New York Giants. I think the New York Giants do have a certain appeal. I think the Mara family does have a certain appeal. Being a head football coach has an appeal in its own right, but also of a renowned franchise like the Giants. If the Giants are trending in the right direction, I do think they have a solid roster that lacks depth, but it's solid because I think at the top end, they have some really high quality stars on some cheap contracts right now with the guys like Abdul Carter, obviously Jaxson Dart, and then, Cam Skattebo. That's unfortunate though. But yeah, so I think it could.
It could, because I think mostly the coaches and the GM candidates will be looking at the stars and the top end players. The Giants do have a lot of, they don't have a lot of depth, but they do have a lot of those, some injured, but they'll be able to sell them on. They're coming back next year. Hopefully both Neighbors and Skattebo are going to be projected back early. And then, as far as like GM goes, and even as far as head coach goes, Nick, and to Bear, I think it kind of depends on if there are any good candidates. Like,
yes.
What are we?
And who are you competing against too? Right.
Yeah.
Like last year, the Bears, like that was a desirable job for Ben Johnson, because he's like, oh, I got Caleb Williams coming out of his rookie season. I'll coach that. And there's a ton of
might be second guess defense right now.
Maybe, but like that does make sense on paper. That makes a lot of sense on paper, right? You're the one in our dynasty league who sold an entire season to get Caleb Williams, and then guess who fell to me at 5 or 6?
Jaden, right?
Drake May.
Oh, Drake May. Nice.
Yeah. 2 quarterback too. That's massive.
I should have got Drake May in that league too. That's unbelievable. Great pick for you.
Yeah, no, that one worked out. Quentin Johnston, not as much, but he's having a better year this year. Hi, Moneyberg. Thank you so much. Was the Singletary third down catch a bad pass? Should it have been a touchdown? See, I thought it was an underthrown pass. Yes. I thought that was
yep. That should have been a touchdown. We'll knock Jaxson Dart for that. It was a bad throw by Dart. It wasn't a horrible throw. It got to the receiver, but he should have thrown for a touchdown.
It was a much better catch than it was a throw. And I think Brady said that. I think Brady said it was like a C+ throw, but an A+ catch. And good job by Singletary. And again, thankfully Singletary is on this roster right now, because I don't know if Tyrone Tracy Jr. is built to be this full-time back. I don't know how the Giants even view Tyrone Tracy Jr., because it seems like if Cam Skattebo never got injured, Tyrone Tracy Jr. is like a 20% snap type of player, maybe 30%, you know what I mean? Like, so it's interesting to see how they're going to even balance Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Devin Singletary. Kyle Kilday, thank you. Biggest bummer. This is a thank you very much, Kyle Kilday. You're the man.
Yeah, biggest bummer here. Appreciate this massive donation, Kyle.
You're the man.
Buy me a coffee. Buy me a coffee. Appreciate it. But thank you. But
biggest bummer here, in my opinion, is that for a second time, this regime will have the excuse basically of injuries to muddy the waters while making their case to stay. But now they can combine it with legit argument of Dable and Dart. Hope ownership's not fooled. Yeah. I mean, that's something.
Great point, Kyle. They will use this as an excuse. We'll see what happens. I mean, again, I do think it ultimately does depend on a few things. Like they're 2-6 right now. They're going to have to win. The only way I think he's going to be able to sell Dable and Shane are going to, Shane is another story. Let's start with Dable. The only way Dable is going to be able to sell Mara, in my opinion, on staying past this year is the Giants do not have many more games, if any, like this, where they're totally blown out by the mid-third. And there are more games like, the Broncos loss or the Saints loss where they were just competitive the whole game.
Yeah.
As annoying as they were. And then B, combined with A, They have to win some of those games. They have to upset a 49ers, or they have to upset like a good Packers team, or they have to upset a Lions team randomly. And like, okay, wow, we have these like wins we can rally off of. That's the only way, because I think some of what you said, Nick, is on the coaching in a really bad light, which is something you mentioned earlier about how you didn't necessarily, and I kind of agree with this, love some of the effort on the tackling and the run defense, especially once the Giants fell behind. It seems like we've had this trend over the last few years with Dable, where when we're in these seasons like this one, where we're 2-5 or 2-6, I don't want to say the team quits on him, but when we're in these spiral games where it's like you're down 2 or 3 scores and it's mid third quarter or end of third, it does seem like the effort does fall off a bit on defense.
It does. It certainly does. And I think some of it is talent. And I think some of these players, though, like it's an interesting conversation. We don't got to spend too much time on it. But it is interesting because there are some players on this roster that it's like, I don't know if they're quitting on Dable. I just think they are I just don't think they're a good football player. Like Tae Banks, for instance, is a perfect example of that, right? Like he has some tackling issues, but I just think he's just flat out a bad football player. I don't know necessarily if that's him quitting on Dable. I just think it's more him sucking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ken Giaffredi, thank you very much. Worse, Shane roster building or Bowen's scheme?
I'll say Bowen's scheme for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Bowen.
At least Shane has an occasional hit. Cam Skattebo was an amazing pick. I don't know what Shane Bowen has done good. Like, I don't even think the Eagles game plan 2 weeks ago was that good. I just think it was us, the players.
Yeah. Yes. Isser, thank you. Glad Dart is fiery and cares. So does Burns.
Yeah.
Glad he gets mad about things that he called it out as embarrassing post game versus trying to dance around it or same old empty cliches. And no, he has a little bit. Cool. He's
got a personality.
Does have a personality. How'd you like Kayvon's post game?
I didn't even hear it.
Oh, you didn't? He said something. He's like, yeah, that was a bullshit call or something. And then Burns just goes like,
I was like, you're gonna get fined. I did see that actually. I'm wrong. I did see it. Yeah.
He's like, actually,
hopefully he doesn't get fined. That's BS.
Yeah, I mean, they probably will. I mean, NFL loves to find people.
Yeah.
So I thank you so much. Said the Skattebo injury took the light. Yeah.
Hopefully not the light out of your life, Sky. He said, yes. Let's try to look for other things that could make us happy in life than just the New York Giants. Because if you're going to do that and leave it to the Giants to be the barringer of all of your happiness or sadness, that's not a good plan for your life.
No, not at all. Yeah, you cannot allow the Giants to dictate your happiness, lest you just be like.
I mean, they will. Like, we don't mean it like that. Like, they will. Like, they dictate my happiness and my sadness. So they will always, no matter what, have some semblance of that. But you have to really fight to not let it take over that much.
You got to go outside and we got to go outside and touch grass sometimes. Yeah. Like for Dan golf.
Pick up a golf club.
Yeah, pick up a golf club. Yeah, no, exactly. It has been tough though. It's been a depressing decade for sure. So I thank you so much. Renee Ruiz, we appreciate it. We're so bad at talent acquisition that when guys like Malik, Scat, Saquon, and OBJ come around, we tend to drive them into the ground. It really sucks. I mean,
drive them into the ground. I just think these are like all like OBJ's injury was random. Like Skattebo's injury was a hip drop. I don't know. I don't think we're running them into the ground. Saquon, they obviously did run into the ground.
Yeah, Saquon, they quite literally ran into the ground.
Yeah, and then he had an MVP season with the Eagles right after it. So, like, I don't know.
Exactly. Hey, sir, thank you so much. There were times where it looked like no one was spying Hurts or even covering Barkley. Is that possible? Was that just me or how did it look? So we'll have to confirm all this on the All-22. Thank you so much again, though. I'll say there seemingly were blown coverage, like the Saquon Barkley passing touchdown. It was like, who was on Saquon there? Was somebody supposed to drop?
I don't know. No, that was a blown coverage. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that was on the backside of a bunch set towards the tight end. Tight end just released inside. It was like the same concept that the Giants successfully scored on, just the rail route. And so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of defensive mistakes with all of the moving parts that they had going on.
Agreed.
All right. PWN Enterprises. I think this is our guy, Ronald. Thank you so much. Says Scat legit 40 invert. Short area burst insane. When he braces almost stationary, he breaks tackles. The injury might cripple that. Yeah, that short area burst. It might. Yeah, it's hard to say, but
problem.
We'll have to see. And nothing but hope. Nothing for.
So here's the thing with that last comment, and I think it's a good point. So one of the things is people have this expectation of Skattebo, and I talk about this a lot of Giants fans, Nick, that are like not Giants fans that listen to our pod. They're just like more casual Giants fans. Like, oh, Skattebo, he's just ramming into people. He's so cool and fun. It's like, no, what makes Skattebo special, and we talked about this when we did the pre-draft evals on him, and then when we draft him, is the short area burst, the jump cuts, the stop and start, the 40-inch vertical explosiveness. It's not if he only had the power, he wouldn't really be that great of a back.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, exactly. The power, like people will look at that because it makes the highlight reel, and it's also a little bit different than a lot of current running backs. Not a lot of running backs perform like that, but it really is the contact balance combined with that power, because not only is he going to hit you and he's going to punish you if you're the defender, but that defender might not be able to get him on the ground too. Like
that's like the route he ran today for a touchdown. That's the short area burst. That's the feet. Like that's
footwork. Yep.
Yeah. That's like, we'll see what happens when he comes back from the injury. I'm definitely a little bit concerned because he can regain his top end speed, but the top end speed is not the part of his game that makes him special. It's a meaningless part of his game. His game is all dependent in my mind on that short area burst and quickness. So I'm just hopeful it comes back, but it's really devastating right now.
Absolutely. Kevin H., thank you. Good coaches, GMs don't just settle for what's available. Bill Belichick wouldn't just accept Bowen. Put in the work and go find the unproven guy. Dable is lazy.
I completely agree with this take, Kevin H. I've been saying this and screaming this. I hate the take where people are like, oh, they had to get Bowen. Nobody else want to go here. Do something creative, dude. Put in the work and go find an unproven guy that will be good. That's on you. Like, you can do that.
Yeah, I don't know if Dable is lazy, but to your guy's point, and where I definitely agree with you is, I think it was all very quick, right? Like they had like 5 different guys that they interviewed, and they thought they were going to get like 2 that they liked. Neither of them did, and they had to go with Bowen. Whereas I think they just need to cast a much broader net. You need to cast a much broader net, and you need to take risks. You're right. You need to you can't just. I think they wanted they don't want a coach to come in that they're going to have to coach into coaching. Really, they're gonna have to coach him to do his job. They thought Bowen would have learned enough being the defense coordinator under Vrabel, and maybe that's the case, but that doesn't mean he's a good coach either, right? Like you need to find that good coach as well, and that's definitely not Shane Bowen, unfortunately. Bear, thank you so much. Do you guys give up on Theo and Nubin and look for replacements in the draft or free agency, or hope they get better with better coaching? I think the Giants are in a position where they you draft the best player available, and none of these guys are really safe, right? Like
we're still in the BPA mode.
Yeah. Now, especially Tyler Nubin and Theo. Like Theo, I think will always have a place right now because of his blocking. I think he's again a very good blocker. I think there's a lot of potential there. I just don't know how many times you can keep relying on him and designing concepts for him when he can't catch the freaking football, man. He just can't catch football. He has very bad hands. But yeah, that was we just got another one that snuck in here. I'm Moneyberg. Thank you. Regarding unproven DCs, didn't Judge get a bunch of unproven college assistants that never worked out?
I don't know about as a defensive coordinator. I don't know.
I mean, there were a lot of college assistants that but I don't know if
they didn't work out though. Like, what's the proof?
Yeah, I think that didn't work out was just that the Giants sucked at the time, but I think that's not necessarily a reflection on those independent coaches. It's more of a reflection on Judge. I would say Gettleman at that time, the personnel, and the overall New York Giants operation.
Yeah.
All righty. And one more. Thank you so much, yes, sir. What are the Vegas odds that Shane throws Dabes under bus to save his own? Well, look, I think they might be put in a position where they will part ways with Dabes, and at that point, Shane is not going to be like, hey, I'll go too because Dable's getting fired. Like he's gonna be like, no, man, like let me continue building. I found Jaxson Dart, I found Cam Skattebo, and that's gonna be the dialect there.
And I'll say this: he did find Cam Skattebo, and that's
but you and I could have found Cam Skattebo.
We could have found Skattebo, but the NFL passed on him a lot. And they said it, that Joe Shane said he was our highest rated player by far on the board when we took him, to the point where they were going to take Marcus Bowe, but they're like, we just can't pass up on a player like Skattebo. And I give him credit for that. I agree that you and I could have figured it out, but a lot of NFL GMs did not figure Skattebo out. They missed on him completely. With that said, and I don't know if there's any truth behind it, but there is also, the rumors, the reports that Joe Shane and Brandon Brown wanted to take Shedeur Sanders at 3 overall. And Brian Daboll was out on that completely after their meeting. And Brian Daboll pushed for Jaxson Dart. And Joe Shane kind of like, all right, even you hear it on the draft night. It's like, all right, let's roll the dice and do it. If Joe Shane wanted Sanders at 3, I'll wait to make this declaration until Sanders plays. But that's a really bad thing for me. Unless I'm really wrong about Sanders, and we'll see what happens with him, that would have derailed everything. We wouldn't have Dart and we wouldn't have Carter at that point. So it's what is Shane going to do? He's going to throw Daboll under the bus, but then he's like, I'll throw the guy under the bus who did the best thing we could do for this franchise by drafting Jaxson Dart.
At what point is it him not throwing him under the bus, though? Because the bus is going right at Dable to begin with. It's just him stepping aside, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? And trust me, I think he should be under that bus as well. But if he has the opportunity to avoid the bus, it behooves him to do so.
True. And he will. You're right. Good point. All right. Thank you to everybody listening in to the Big Blue Banter podcast, live reaction to the Giants-Eagles game. Remember, if you want to help support the show, check out our Buy Us a Coffee link at the beginning of every show. In between that, tomorrow, we will be back at you like we always are here. And Lawrence says, cite your source. I don't have a source for that. It's a report. That's why I said it was a report, Lawrence, in the comments. Just something that I had heard about Joe Shane and Brandon Brown leaning towards Shador. They didn't do it anyway, so maybe it was wrong. I don't know. Anyway, tomorrow we'll be back with the all-22 film breakdowns. We're going to do offense. We're going to do defense. No, you're not. Sorry, I see Lawrence. I don't think you're trying to be rude. You're right. I don't have a source for it. Maybe I shouldn't have even mentioned it. It's just something that I had heard. So it is what it is. Anyway, we'll be back with the offensive all-22 and the defensive all-22. Please do us a favor, support the show. Last week, we got some good traction on those videos. This week, I know it's going to be a little tougher. It was a rough game, but just help us out. Otherwise, we will be, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your night.